Um, okay, being asked here why market moves too slow. Well, we've had one of the biggest moves in sterling against the dollar in over a month, so we've certainly got some action there. Just putting that up on the chart now, heading towards prior lows, and a break of those opened 25.90 on the back of the UK PMIs. Um, my opinion on the market depends on this US data coming out just after the Wall Street Open. Business activity is expected to outstrip that of Europe and the UK, so potentially dollar bullish. The yields are weighing at the moment. Technically, they're as we've been talking about, due for a correction, and that's what we're seeing. But the dollar's getting a boost due to the pound and the euro. Weak PMIs across Asia, Europe, and the UK. Um, Other than that, we don't know. We'll have to wait until the day unfolds and what comes out. But the sentiment is really around the central bank divergence and the Fed seen as more hawkish than its counterparts across in Europe and the UK, Australia, RBNZ on hold for the foreseeable future, etc. So the variant really is the Fed. And then this Friday's Jackson Hole and Powell speech will be critical. There is prospects for a hawkish outcome out of that, which seems to be dollar supportive. Just before we move on to your requests, we'll just highlight what was uh, talked about yesterday. Um, Brilliant move there for those that got involved in that market. We talked about this opportunity yesterday, pointed out by one of you guys, which is great. These are exactly the sort of setups that I really look for. Because you've got a beautiful amount of volume to be moving away from. So all of this is trapped up top, and this is just sunk. Uh, it's a textbook scenario, really. So we've got that out of GBP, AUD, and New Zealand dollar. So well done for spotting that one. Right. WTI, US oil. Let's have a look at that. So we talked about this earlier in the week, and it's essentially remained on the backside of that bearish trend, sunk heavily today, breaking support, heading over into this area right here. Down over 1.48% at the moment. A correction could be in order. Looks like there's potential for a move up. Perhaps before the next bearish impulse. But so long as the price stays below 79, then there are prospects for a downside continuation. and those are the levels to the downside on the daily chart. So global PMIs not impressing the price of oil. Um, so it's a supply demand story with oil. Supply coming back on and poor global data. How's silver doing? Let's have a look at silver. Nice strong move up in line with what we were looking for in gold. Been talking about this correction having legs. So silver tracking the movement in gold, taking on resistance currently. Now, whether it's going to continue up depends on yields. US yields are down. If they rebound, let's see what the data provides later on today. But if they rebound, be worth noting the W formation in here for a retest of the neckline. In what would be a 50% mean reversion back into that impulse. Could be what we're looking at for the days ahead of the Fed, or a continuation looks to target 24 and potentially up into this area. 24 is what, 30. Okay, moving over to euro versus the dollar. So firmly on the back foot, below the trendline resistance. Coming into a potential support level. So this is the daily chart. On the hourly, prospects of a correction here. Got the 38.2 aligned with resistance at 108.30-ish. If the dollar remains firm, then any correction will be offered for potential continuations. You've got the weekly support, potential support in the 107.80s. Slightly higher up here, 107.93, and below there into the 107.70s. and then 107.50s. Okay, other than that, if we do get a correction that surpasses the 38.2, then in the daily chart, got resistance at the 61.8 and rounded up into the 108.50s. How's dollar yen getting on? Let's have a look. On the back foot. Broken structure on the inside. Seems to be wanting to continue to come down. Impulse correction, perhaps continuation. This is on the hourly chart. Resistance. This, of course, depends on the yields remaining offered in the US. Again, all eyes on this data this morning. W formation. On the weekly chart. On 41.80 on the downside for a longer term outlook if indeed this continues to correct. Any other questions, guys, before we move on? Let's see if we don't get a rebound. I mean, if we get a rebound in the euro and if we see, for instance, if we see yields correcting somewhat higher and the euro firming, the euro yen you'd expect to rebound. I'll move up. US 30. Let's clear up this chart. Not much action in here. Potentially, we were talking about this one yesterday, and perhaps it's working the lows to move higher. that last week's lows, yesterday's lows, above yesterday's close. Inside day so far, inside of Tuesday's range, that was also inside of Monday's range. So it's pent up, coiled. Are we going to get an explosive move one way or the other? Yet to be seen. But there's definitely money sitting up top for the price to move up. Um, Other than that, if it were to break lower, there's an awful lot of space all the way down to last month's lows. So this is pretty critical territory that it's treading at the moment. And if the bulls don't commit, then we could see a pretty decent move. Bearing in mind, however, we've got that M formation. Put it on a different template. This is a reversion pattern. So it's one or the other, really. A correction up into the neckline, or a drop over the edge of the abyss by the looks of things. One or the other. Seems to be binary, this one. That's on the weekly chart. There's plenty of space in here, guys. It's just one or the other. This is also an M formation within the weekly formation. So a correction could find itself quite quickly at 38.2, and a 50% mean reversion aligns with volumes in here. Okay, those are the upside levels. Between 61.8 and 38.2. Okay. So gold has the 61.8 as a target on the upside for the day. Let's clean up this chart entirely. However, if resistance holds in, which it looks like it's trying to here. Look, plenty of rejection up here. We've got the lows. Which are guarding space all the way back into the lows of the day. Yesterday's closing area. So are we calling for a breakout to the downside potentially? So look for a break of 1902. Could be a fast move into test 1901, and then below there pretty decent move probably back in towards the lows of the day. Broken structure. We've come back up into volumes, so I would say that we're probably on the verge of making a downside move. Let's see what's broken. So it's a broken down market, trap volumes up top, move to the downside. Dollar Swiss. Looks like it's struggling to get back above into resistance area, or level 3 if you like, of the week. This is the week's range so far. So it's come up into level 3 of the week's range. Struggling. Potential for a continuation to the downside, it looks like. But again, it will be dependent on this data that's due. So let's see how we come out on the other side of that data. So Wall Street open and the data 15 minutes after the open, 9:30 and 9:45, in the key areas, key times of the day. On the daily chart, dollar Swiss potential to roll over, perhaps roll over to the downside would be my best bet at the moment, unless it can break that resistance. Looks pretty coiled and decelerating, so that was the bullish correction decelerated perhaps to roll over unless we get some favourable outcomes of the data today to perhaps nudge it through the resistance, and flipping the script on that. And of course, there are prospects to the upside for a test of 89, the figure. Right, guys, so I think we'll wrap it up there and roll up our sleeves and get ready for the day to start moving as we head into the Wall Street Open. So thank you for joining and best of luck for today. Middle of the week, might see some big moves with Monday and Tuesday all uh, stacking up for us, and then looking ahead to Friday, Jackson Hole. All right, good luck out there, guys. See you in the chat room.